"Daddy, she's crying." Those two simple words from 5-year-old Lily shattered the carefully constructed walls Jack had built around his heart over the past 3 years. There, standing in the crowded mall on Christmas Eve, was Emma, his ex-wife, the woman who had walked away from their family without looking back. But why was she alone? Why was she crying? And why, despite everything, did Jack still feel that familiar pull toward her? What happens next will change their lives forever. The mall buzzed with last-minute shoppers, Christmas music floating through the air as Jack gripped Lily's small hand tightly. He hadn't planned to be here today, but Lily had begged to see Santa one last time before Christmas. How could he say no to those big brown eyes, eyes that reminded him so much of Emma's? "Daddy, look! It's Mommy!" Lily tugged at his sleeve, pointing across the food court. Jack's heart stopped. 3 years. It had been 3 years since Emma had walked out of their lives, claiming she needed to find herself. 3 years of bedtime stories without a mother's goodnight kiss. 3 years of Jack learning to be both mom and dad to their daughter. "Lily, honey, I don't think," but his words died in his throat when he saw her. Emma stood near the pretzel stand, one hand covering her mouth, tears streaming down her face. She looked thinner than he remembered, her once vibrant appearance now subdued. "Daddy, she's crying," Lily said, her voice small with concern. Before Jack could stop her, Lily broke free from his grip and darted through the crowd. Jack's heart lurched as he pushed through the sea of shoppers, trying to keep his daughter's bobbing red hat in sight. "Mommy!" Lily called out, and Emma turned, her tear-stained face freezing in shock. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more content like this. The journey these three are about to embark on will touch your heart in ways you never expected. Emma knelt down as Lily approached, her hands trembling as she reached for the daughter she hadn't seen in years. Jack stood frozen several feet away, a storm of emotions raging inside him, anger, confusion, and something else he didn't want to acknowledge. "Lily?" Emma's voice cracked. "Oh my God, you've gotten so big." Jack finally found his voice. "Lily, come back here." His tone was sharper than intended, causing both Emma and Lily to flinch. "Jack," Emma whispered, standing slowly. I didn't expect to see you here." "Clearly," he replied coldly. "Come on, Lily. We need to go see Santa." "But Daddy, Mommy's sad," Lily insisted, her small face scrunched with worry. "We can't leave her alone on Christmas." Jack felt dozens of eyes on them, curious onlookers watching their family drama unfold in the middle of the mall. He lowered his voice. "This isn't the place, Lily." "Please," Emma said quietly. "Could we talk? Just for a minute?" Jack wanted to say no. Every logical part of his brain screamed at him to take Lily and walk away. But something in Emma's eyes, a desperation he'd never seen before, made him hesitate. 5 minutes, he conceded. "There's a coffee shop around the corner." As they walked in tense silence, Jack couldn't help but notice how Emma kept stealing glances at Lily, drinking in every detail of the daughter she'd abandoned. What right did she have to look at Lily that way now? The coffee shop was mercifully quiet compared to the mall. Jack ordered hot chocolate for Lily and black coffee for himself. Emma asked for tea, her voice barely audible. "So," Jack said once they were seated, Lily happily distracted by the whipped cream mountain on her hot chocolate. "What brings you back to town?" Emma wrapped her hands around her mug. "My mom's sick. Cancer. I came back to help take care of her." Jack felt a pang of sympathy despite himself. Margaret had always been kind to him, even after the divorce. "I'm sorry to hear that." "She's been asking about Lily," Emma continued, her eyes fixed on the table. "About you, too." "We're fine," Jack said curtly. "We've been fine without you." What Emma reveals next will leave you speechless. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens." Emma flinched as if he'd slapped her. "I deserve that," she whispered. "I deserve all your anger, Jack. What I did was unforgivable." "Then why did you do it?" The question that had haunted him for 3 years finally escaped. "Why did you leave us?" Emma's eyes filled with fresh tears. "I was sick, Jack. Not physically, mentally. I had postpartum depression that never went away. It just got worse and worse until I couldn't see any way out. I thought." Her voice broke, "I thought you and Lily would be better off without me." Jack stared at her, processing her words. He remembered the months before she left, how she'd withdrawn, how she'd cry for no reason, how she'd stopped eating. He'd attributed it to unhappiness in their marriage, never considering it might be something deeper. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice softer now. "I was ashamed. I thought I was failing as a mother, as a wife. And then I convinced myself you'd be happier if I just disappeared." Lily, who had been quietly sipping her hot chocolate, suddenly spoke up. "Did you stop loving us, Mommy?" Emma's face crumpled. "No, baby. Never. Not for 1 second. I thought about you every single day." "Then why didn't you come back?" Lily's innocent question hung in the air. "Because I was scared," Emma admitted. "Scared you wouldn't want me anymore. Scared I'd hurt you again." Jack watched as his daughter processed this information, her small brow furrowed in concentration. Then, with the simple wisdom only children possess, Lily said, "But you're here now." Those 4 words hit Jack like a thunderbolt. She was here now. After 3 years of absence, Emma had returned. But was it too late? Could they ever rebuild what had been broken? "Where are you staying?" Jack found himself asking. "At my mom's house. I've been there for about a week." Jack nodded slowly. "Tomorrow is Christmas." "I know," Emma said, looking down. "I was at the mall buying a gift for my mom when I saw you both." Lily tugged at Jack's sleeve. "Daddy, can Mommy come to our house for Christmas? Please?" Jack looked at his daughter's hopeful face, then at Emma's surprised one. 1,000 reasons to say no raced through his mind. But then he remembered something his own father had told him: "Christmas is for forgiveness, son. If you can't find it in your heart to forgive on Christmas, when can you?" What happens next will warm your heart and remind you of the true meaning of Christmas. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that touches the soul. "Dinner is at 6, Jack said finally. "Nothing fancy. Just ham and potatoes." Emma's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "No," Jack admitted honestly. "But it's Christmas, and Lily wants you there." "And you?" Emma asked softly. "What do you want, Jack?" Jack looked at her, really looked at her for the first time since their unexpected reunion. Behind the sadness in her eyes, he could still see traces of the woman he had fallen in love with, the woman who had given him the greatest gift in his life, their daughter. "I want..." he began, then paused. "I want Lily to have a good Christmas." It wasn't the whole truth, but it was all he could offer right now. Emma nodded, understanding the unspoken boundaries. "Thank you. I'll bring dessert." As they prepared to leave, Lily surprised them both by taking Emma's hand. "I missed you, Mommy," she said simply. Emma knelt down, tears flowing freely now. "I missed you too, baby. More than you'll ever know." Jack watched this exchange with a lump in his throat. He had spent 3 years trying to fill the void Emma had left in Lily's life, but some spaces could only be filled by a mother's love. The next morning, Christmas Day dawned bright and clear, a fresh blanket of snow covering the ground overnight. Jack woke early, his mind racing with thoughts of the day ahead. Would Emma actually show up? What would they talk about? How would Lily handle having her mother back in her life, even if just for one day? He found Lily already awake, sitting by the Christmas tree in her pajamas. "Santa came," she exclaimed when she saw him. "He sure did," Jack smiled, pushing aside his worries to focus on his daughter's joy. They spent the morning opening presents, making pancakes, and watching Christmas movies. But as the day progressed, Jack noticed Lily growing increasingly distracted, her eyes darting to the window every few minutes. "She'll be here, sweetheart," he assured her, though he wasn't entirely convinced himself. At 4 o'clock, Jack started preparing dinner, his hands moving mechanically through the familiar motions while his mind wandered. He thought about the first Christmas he and Emma had spent together, how they'd burned the turkey and ended up ordering Chinese food. He thought about their first Christmas with Lily, how they'd stayed up all night assembling a dollhouse. He thought about the 3 Christmases since Emma left, how he'd forced himself to be cheerful for Lily's sake while feeling hollow inside. At 5:45, the doorbell rang. What happens at that door will change everything. The final moments of this story will leave you breathless. Lily raced to the door, Jack following close behind. When he opened it, Emma stood on the porch, snowflakes dusting her hair, holding a bakery box and a small gift bag. "Merry Christmas," she said tentatively. "Merry Christmas, Mommy," Lily exclaimed, throwing her arms around Emma's legs. "Come in," Jack said, stepping aside. "Dinner's almost ready." Emma entered the house slowly, her eyes taking in the familiar surroundings. "You kept the same decorations," she observed, noticing the handmade ornaments on the tree, the stockings hanging from the fireplace, including hers, Jack realized with a start. He'd never had the heart to take it down. Lily insisted, he explained, though they both knew it wasn't entirely true. Dinner was awkward at first, conversation stilted and polite. But Lily, oblivious to the tension, chattered happily about school, her friends, and the presents Santa had brought. Gradually, the atmosphere warmed, memories of happier times softening the edges of their shared pain. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Emma gave Lily the gift she'd brought, a beautiful snow globe with a ballerina inside, knowing Lily's love for dance. "I have something for you too, Jack," Emma said hesitantly, handing him the small gift bag. Inside was a framed photograph, one he'd never seen before. It showed him holding newborn Lily in the hospital, his face a mixture of awe and love as he gazed down at his daughter. "My mom took it," Emma explained. "I found it when I was going through her things. I thought you should have it." Jack stared at the photo, emotion tightening his throat. "Thank you," he managed. As the evening wore on, Lily began to yawn. "Time for bed, princess," Jack said, standing up. Can Mommy tuck me in?" Lily asked hopefully. Jack and Emma exchanged glances. "If that's okay with your dad," Emma said carefully. Jack nodded. "Of course." He listened from the hallway as Emma read Lily a bedtime story, her voice soft and animated in all the right places. When she finished, he heard Lily ask, "Will you be here tomorrow, Mommy?" There was a pause before Emma replied, "I don't know, sweetheart. That's something your daddy and I need to talk about." "I want you to stay," Lily said sleepily. "Forever." Jack stepped away from the door, his heart heavy with conflicting emotions. When Emma emerged from Lily's room, her eyes were red-rimmed. "She's asleep," she said. "Thank you for letting me do that." "She's your daughter too," Jack acknowledged. They stood in awkward silence for a moment before Jack gestured toward the living room. "Would you like some coffee? Or something stronger?" "Coffee would be nice," Emma said. As Jack prepared the coffee, Emma wandered around the living room, stopping at the mantel where family photos were displayed. "You've done an amazing job with her, Jack," she said quietly. "She's happy, well-adjusted. I was so afraid." "Afraid of what?" Jack asked, handing her a mug. That I'd broken her when I left. That she'd be angry or withdrawn or... Emma trailed off. Kids are resilient, Jack said. And I never spoke badly of you to her. I told her you loved her but needed to be away for a while. Why? Emma asked, her voice barely audible. Why would you do that for me after what I did? Jack sighed, sinking onto the couch. Because I knew something was wrong, Emma. I didn't understand it was depression. I thought maybe you'd fallen out of love with me, with our life together. But I never believed you stopped loving Lily. Emma sat beside him, careful to maintain distance between them. I never stopped loving either of you, she confessed. That's what made it so hard. I loved you both so much, but I couldn't feel it. It was like watching my life through a glass wall. I could see everything but couldn't connect to any of it. And now? Jack asked, meeting her eyes. How do you feel now? Better, Emma said. I got help, therapy, medication. It took a long time, but I started to feel like myself again. That's when the guilt really hit me. By then, I thought it was too late to come back. Why did you think that? Because I abandoned you, Emma said, her voice breaking. What kind of person does that to their family? I thought you must hate me. I thought Lily would be better off without me confusing her life. Jack was quiet for a long moment, processing her words. I was angry for a long time, he admitted. Hurt. Confused. But hate? No, Emma. I never hated you. The final revelation will leave you in tears. If this story has touched your heart, please like and subscribe. Emma wiped away a tear. When I saw you both at the mall yesterday, it was like the universe was giving me a sign. I've been trying to work up the courage to contact you since I got back to town. And what would you have said? Jack asked. That I'm sorry. That I made the biggest mistake of my life. That I don't expect forgiveness, but I want a chance to be in Lily's life again, in whatever way you think is best. Jack studied the woman before him, the mother of his child, the woman he had once promised to love for better or worse. She had hurt him deeply, but sitting here now, he could see her pain had been even greater than his own. Lily needs her mother, he said finally. We can figure out some kind of visitation schedule. Start slow, see how it goes. Relief washed over Emma's face. Thank you, Jack. That's more than I deserve. It's not about what you deserve, Jack said. It's about what Lily needs. Emma nodded, understanding. And what about us? She asked hesitantly. Can we ever be friends again? Jack looked down at his coffee. I don't know, he answered honestly. That might take more time. They talked late into the night, filling in the gaps of the past 3 years. Jack told her about Lily's first day of kindergarten, her ballet recitals, her obsession with dinosaurs. Emma shared stories of her recovery, her work as a graphic designer, her volunteer work with a postpartum depression support group. As the clock struck midnight, marking the end of Christmas Day, Emma stood to leave. I should go. My mom will be wondering where I am. Jack walked her to the door. Tell Margaret I said hello. And that I hope she feels better soon. I will, Emma promised. And Jack? Thank you for today. It meant everything to me. As she turned to go, a small voice called from the top of the stairs. Mommy? Are you leaving? They both looked up to see Lily standing there in her pajamas, clutching her teddy bear. I was just saying goodnight to your daddy, sweetheart, Emma explained. But you'll come back tomorrow? Lily asked, her voice small and uncertain. Emma looked at Jack, who gave a slight nod. Yes, Lily. I'll come back tomorrow. Lily's face lit up with a smile that warmed Jack's heart. Good, she said, and then added the 2 words that would change everything, we're family. Those simple words hung in the air between them. We're family. Not, we were family, but, we are family, present tense, unbroken despite everything. Jack felt something shift inside him, a crack in the wall he'd built around his heart. He looked at Emma and saw the same realization dawning on her face. Their daughter, in her innocent wisdom, had cut through years of pain and regret with a truth so simple it was impossible to deny. Yes, we are, Jack found himself saying, his voice thick with emotion. After tucking Lily back into bed, Jack returned to find Emma still standing by the door, tears streaming down her face. She never forgot me, Emma whispered. After everything, she still sees us as a family. Kids see the truth sometimes better than adults do, Jack replied softly. As Emma prepared to leave again, she paused with her hand on the doorknob. Jack, I know I have no right to ask this, but, do you think there's any chance for us? Not now, not soon, but someday? Jack took a deep breath. 3 years ago, he would have said no without hesitation. But tonight, watching Emma with Lily, seeing the woman she had become through her struggle and recovery, he couldn't give that same answer. I don't know, he said honestly. But I'm willing to find out. The smile that bloomed on Emma's face was like the first ray of sunrise after the longest night. That's all I can ask for, she said. As Jack closed the door behind her, he leaned against it, overwhelmed by the events of the past 2 days. Christmas had always been about miracles, but he never expected to receive one of his own. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy. Trust, once broken, took time to rebuild. But for the first time in 3 years, Jack allowed himself to hope. Hope that his daughter might grow up with both her parents, hope that the wounds of the past might finally begin to heal. And it had all started with those 2 simple words from a 5-year-old girl, we're family. 6 months later, Jack sat on a park bench watching Emma push Lily on the swings, their daughter's laughter carrying across the playground. The past months had been filled with careful steps forward, family dinners, weekend outings, honest conversations after Lily went to bed. Emma had moved into her own apartment nearby, close enough to be present in Lily's life but giving Jack the space he still needed. She had proven herself reliable, showing up when she promised, never missing a moment of their carefully constructed co-parenting schedule. And somewhere along the way, Jack had started to look forward to seeing her, to sharing stories about their day, to rediscovering the woman he had fallen in love with so many years ago. Daddy, watch me. Lily called, pumping her legs to swing higher. I see you, princess, he called back, smiling. Emma caught his eye across the playground and smiled too, a smile full of gratitude and something else, something that made his heart beat a little faster. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Jack and Emma sat on his front porch, the summer night warm around them. I have something to tell you, Emma said, her voice nervous but steady. I've been offered a permanent position at the design firm. I'm staying in town for good. Jack felt a surge of relief he hadn't expected. That's great news, Emma. There's more, she continued. I've been talking to my therapist about us, about our family. She thinks we've been making amazing progress, but she also warned me not to rush things. She's right, Jack agreed. We can't just pick up where we left off. No, Emma said. But maybe we could start something new? Something better, built on everything we've learned? Jack looked at her in the soft porch light, seeing both the woman he had loved and the stronger person she had become through her struggles. He reached out slowly and took her hand. I'd like that, he said simply. As they sat together under the stars, Jack thought about the Christmas Eve that had changed everything, how a chance meeting and a child's simple words had opened the door to healing and second chances. Life wasn't a fairy tale. There would still be hard days ahead, trust to rebuild, and wounds that needed time to fully heal. But sitting here now, with Emma's hand in his and their daughter sleeping peacefully inside, Jack knew one thing for certain, they were family. And this time, they would face whatever came next together. If this story touched your heart, Please like and subscribe for more content that reminds us of the power of forgiveness, the strength of family bonds, and the possibility of second chances, even when they seem impossible. Sometimes the most profound changes begin with the simplest words, spoken from the heart of a child. The little girl's eyes found his across the crowded mall, and in that moment, Jake Collins knew his life would never be the same. What he couldn't possibly know was that taking her small, trembling hand would lead him straight into the path of the most powerful woman in the country, and unearth a secret that had been buried for 8 long years. If you think this is just another heartwarming reunion story, I promise you'll need tissues for what happens next. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe now, because the twist coming in this true story left millions speechless. Jake Collins wiped down the last table at Brewster's Cafe, his shoulders aching from another 12-hour shift. At 34, his life had settled into a predictable rhythm: work, home to his 7-year-old daughter Lily, sleep, repeat. The cafe job wasn't glamorous, but it offered flexible hours that allowed him to be there when Lily got home from school, a priority since his wife Marie had died from cancer 3 years ago. "You heading out, Jake?" his manager called from behind the counter. "Yeah, just need to grab a few things at the mall for Lily's science project before I pick her up from my sister's," Jake replied, untying his apron. The Westfield Mall was crowded for a Thursday afternoon. Jake moved quickly through the throngs of shoppers, mentally calculating how much time he had before he needed to collect Lily. That's when he noticed the small figure standing alone near the fountain, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Dark curls framed a heart-shaped face, her blue dress rumpled and slightly damp at the hem. Jake glanced around, expecting to see a frantic parent searching nearby, but no one seemed to be looking for her. He approached carefully, kneeling down to her level. "Hi there. Are you lost?" The girl nodded, her bottom lip trembling. "I can't find my nanny." "What's your name?" Jake asked gently. "Sophia," she whispered. "Well, Sophia, I'm Jake. Would you like me to help you find your nanny or your parents?" She nodded again, a tear sliding down her cheek. Jake offered his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. Her small fingers curled trustingly around his, and something shifted in his chest, a protective instinct he'd only ever felt with Lily. What Jake didn't realize as he led Sophia toward the mall security office was that security cameras were capturing their every move, footage that would soon be scrutinized by a team of private investigators and broadcast across every major news network in the country. At the security office, the guard took down Sophia's information. She knew her full name, Sophia Grace Montgomery, but couldn't remember her phone number or address. She explained that her nanny, Claudia, had been shopping with her when Sophia had stopped to look at a toy display. When she turned around, Claudia was gone. "Do you know your mom or dad's phone number?" the guard asked. Sophia shook her head. "Mommy is very busy. She's away on her big airplane." Jake stayed with Sophia while security made announcements over the mall intercom. An hour passed with no response. The guard mentioned calling Child Protective Services, and Jake saw fear flash in Sophia's eyes. "I can stay with her a bit longer," Jake offered. "My daughter's with my sister anyway. Maybe we could get her something to eat while we wait?" The guard looked relieved. After taking Jake's information and making a copy of his ID, he agreed to call Jake's cell if anyone came looking for Sophia. At the food court, Sophia picked at a plate of chicken nuggets while Jake called his sister to explain the situation. "You always were a sucker for strays," his sister teased. "Don't worry about Lily. She can stay here tonight if needed." As the mall prepared to close, still no one had come for Sophia. The security guard approached their table with a concerned expression. "CPS is backed up tonight. They won't have a placement until morning." Jake looked at Sophia's exhausted face and made a decision that would alter the course of his life forever. "I can take her for the night. I've already been background checked for my daughter's school volunteering." After a series of calls and paperwork, Jake was given temporary emergency custody until morning. As he drove home with Sophia asleep in Lily's booster seat, he had no idea that across the country, a private jet was being urgently fueled for takeoff. The next morning, Jake made pancakes for both girls, who had bonded instantly. Lily was thrilled to have someone to show her toys to, and Sophia seemed to bloom in the warm, chaotic environment of their small apartment. "My house doesn't have drawings on the refrigerator," Sophia observed, studying Lily's artwork with fascination. "Well, you're welcome to add some," Jake offered, sliding another pancake onto her plate. The doorbell rang just as they were finishing breakfast. Jake opened the door to find a police officer and a woman in a crisp suit who introduced herself as from Child Protective Services. "We've located Sophia Montgomery's family," the CPS worker explained. "Her mother is on her way." Jake felt an unexpected pang of loss but nodded. "Of course. She's just finishing breakfast." "There's something else," the officer added, his expression serious. "The nanny has been arrested. She abandoned Sophia deliberately." Before Jake could process this information, a sleek black SUV pulled up outside his apartment building. Two men in dark suits emerged first, scanning the area before opening the rear door. The woman who stepped out made Jake freeze in recognition. Everyone in America would recognize Alexandra Montgomery, tech CEO, philanthropist, and one of the richest women in the world. Her face regularly graced magazine covers and news programs, her company's innovations changing the technological landscape. And apparently, she was Sophia's mother. Alexandra Montgomery moved with purpose toward his door, her expression unreadable behind large sunglasses. When she removed them, Jake was struck by her eyes, the exact same shade of deep blue as Sophia's. "Where is my daughter?" she asked, her voice controlled but tight with emotion. "She's inside," Jake replied, stepping back to let her enter. "She's safe. She's been very brave." Alexandra's composure cracked slightly at his words. She moved past him into the apartment, stopping when she saw Sophia at the kitchen table with Lily. "Mommy!" Sophia cried, jumping down and running to her mother. Alexandra knelt, gathering her daughter into a fierce embrace. For a moment, the billionaire CEO was just a terrified mother reunited with her child. Jake felt like an intruder witnessing their private reunion. When Alexandra finally stood, still holding Sophia's hand, she turned to Jake with an intensity that made him nervous. "Thank you for taking care of her," she said formally. "My team will ensure you're compensated for your trouble." "It wasn't any trouble," Jake replied honestly. "She's a wonderful little girl." Something flickered across Alexandra's face, surprise, perhaps, or assessment. She glanced around the modest apartment, taking in the mismatched furniture, the school photos of Lily, the general lived-in warmth of the place. "Nevertheless, I'm grateful." She handed him a business card. "If you'll send any expenses to this email, my office will handle it immediately." Jake wanted to refuse but sensed it would only make an awkward situation more uncomfortable. He accepted the card, noticing it had only her name and an email address, no title, no company name. The card of someone who needed no introduction. As Alexandra prepared to leave with Sophia, the little girl broke away and ran back to Lily, giving her a hug. Then, to Jake's surprise, she came to him and wrapped her arms around his legs. "Thank you for the pancakes, Mr. Jake," she said solemnly. Jake knelt down. "You're very welcome, Sophia. Take care of yourself, okay?" Alexandra watched this exchange with an unreadable expression. As they left, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened, something beyond the simple act of helping a lost child. He had no idea how right he was. 3 days later, Jake was closing up the cafe when a black SUV pulled up outside. His heart jumped to his throat when Alexandra Montgomery stepped out, this time alone. "Mr. Collins," she said as she entered. "Do you have a moment?" Jake nodded, gesturing to a table. "Can I get you anything? Coffee?" "No, thank you." She sat, her posture perfect, hands folded on the table. "I wanted to speak with you personally, not through assistants or lawyers." Jake sat across from her, suddenly aware of his wrinkled work shirt and the coffee stain on his sleeve. "Sophia hasn't stopped talking about you and your daughter," Alexandra began. "She's asked repeatedly when she can see you again." "She's welcome anytime," Jake said automatically. "Lily's been asking about her too." Alexandra studied him for a long moment. "I've had you investigated, Mr. Collins." Jake blinked in surprise. "Excuse me?" "I needed to know who had spent time with my daughter." "It's nothing personal." "And what did you find?" Jake asked, unsure whether to be offended or amused. "That you're exactly what you appear to be. A widower raising his daughter alone. A hard worker with no criminal record. Well liked by neighbors. Financially struggling but managing." She delivered these facts without judgment. "In short, a good man." "I'm not sure how to respond to that," Jake admitted. Alexandra took a deep breath. "There's something I need to tell you. Something that may be difficult to hear." The intensity of her gaze made Jake's stomach tighten with apprehension. 8 years ago, I was in a serious relationship with a man named Thomas Reeves. We were young, ambitious. When I became pregnant, it was unexpected. Thomas didn't want children. He believed they would interfere with our careers. Jake listened, confused about why she was sharing this personal history. "I disagreed," Alexandra continued. "I ended the relationship and had Sophia. Thomas signed away his parental rights before she was born, wanting no involvement." She paused, seeming to gather herself. 2 days ago, I showed Sophia the photos from the security cameras of you helping her at the mall. She pointed to something I hadn't noticed. Alexandra reached into her purse and removed a photograph, sliding it across the table. It was a picture of Jake leading Sophia by the hand through the mall. "Look at your left wrist," she said quietly. Jake glanced down at the distinctive birthmark on his wrist, a small, irregular shape that resembled a crescent moon. In the photo, it was clearly visible. He looked back at Alexandra, still not understanding. "Thomas had the same birthmark," she said. "Identical. In the exact same place." Jake felt the world tilt slightly. "What are you saying?" "Thomas Reeves died in a climbing accident 7 years ago. Before I met him, he had another name. He changed it when he moved to California to reinvent himself." Alexandra's eyes never left his face. "His birth name was Thomas Collins." Jake stared at her, the implications slowly dawning on him. "You think?" "I know," Alexandra corrected gently. "Thomas was your brother, wasn't he?" The question hit Jake like a physical blow. His estranged brother Tom, who had left their small hometown at 18, changing his name and cutting ties with the family. The brother who had made it big in Silicon Valley but never came home, not even for their parents' funerals. "How did you know?" Jake whispered. "The birthmark was the first clue. Then your surname. I had my team dig deeper." She hesitated. "There's more, Jake. Something I only confirmed this morning with DNA tests." The cafe seemed to grow very quiet, the hum of the refrigerators the only sound as Alexandra Montgomery spoke the words that would change everything. "Sophia is your niece. But Lily. Lily is Thomas's daughter too. If you're shocked right now, imagine how Jake felt." Hit that subscribe button now because you won't believe what happens next in this incredible true story. Jake's mind reeled, unable to process her words. That's impossible. Lily is my daughter. Mine and Marie's. Alexandra's expression softened with compassion. Did Marie ever meet Thomas? The question triggered a memory Jake had long buried. Marie at a tech conference in San Francisco for her former job, before they were married. Coming home upset, refusing to talk about it. Their brief separation afterward. The reconciliation when she discovered she was pregnant. They met once, he admitted, his voice hollow. But that doesn't mean. I had my medical team compare the DNA samples discreetly collected from both girls, Alexandra said. They're half-sisters, Jake. Thomas is their biological father. Jake stood abruptly, needing space, air, distance from the words that threatened to unravel his entire understanding of his life. Why are you telling me this? What do you want? Alexandra remained seated, her composure intact despite the emotional weight of the conversation. I believe children deserve to know their family. All of their family. Sophia has no one but me. Now I discover she has an uncle and a half-sister. She stood then, facing him directly. I'm not here to disrupt your life or take anything from you. Lily is your daughter in every way that matters. But these girls share blood. They're connected. I think they deserve the chance to know each other. Jake leaned against the counter, his world spinning. Marie had never told him. Had she known? Had she taken the truth to her grave? I need time, he managed to say. This is a lot. Alexandra nodded. Of course. Take whatever time you need. She placed another card on the table. This has my personal number. When you're ready to talk, call me directly. As she turned to leave, she paused. For what it's worth, I think Thomas would be proud of the father you've become. Even if Lily isn't biologically yours, it's clear you're her real father in every way that counts. After she left, Jake sat alone in the darkened cafe for hours, memories of his brother, his wife, and his life replaying with new context. By morning, he had made his decision. 1 month later, Jake watched as Lily and Sophia chased each other through the sprawling gardens of Alexandra's estate. The girls had formed an instant bond that went beyond their initial meeting, a connection that now made painful sense. They look happy, Alexandra commented, joining him on the terrace. They do, Jake agreed. The past month had been a whirlwind of emotions, conversations, and adjustments. DNA tests had confirmed Alexandra's revelation. Lily was indeed Thomas's biological daughter, making her and Sophia half-sisters. Jake had struggled with anger at Marie's deception, grief for the brother he'd never truly known, and fear about what this meant for his relationship with Lily. But watching the girls together, he couldn't deny the rightness of their connection. Have you decided about my offer? Alexandra asked, her tone carefully neutral. She had proposed a solution that had initially seemed outrageous, a position managing the charitable foundation she had established in Thomas's memory, with a salary generous enough to ensure Lily's future education and a guest house on her property where Jake and Lily could live while maintaining their independence. It feels like charity, Jake had protested during their initial discussions. It's not charity, Alexandra had countered. It's family. And it's practical. The girls should know each other. They should have the chance to grow up together, at least part of the time. Now, watching the girls play, Jake found himself reconsidering. His initial instinct to protect his independence was being challenged by the undeniable joy on Lily's face as she played with the sister she never knew she had. I have conditions, Jake said finally. Alexandra turned to him, one eyebrow raised. I'm listening. I keep my apartment. Lily and I live there most of the time, maintaining our normal life. We stay here on weekends and school breaks. He met her gaze directly. And I want a separate contract for the foundation work, a real job with responsibilities, not a sinecure. A smile touched Alexandra's lips. You really are nothing like him. Thomas? She nodded. He would have taken everything offered without a second thought. I'm not doing this for money, Jake said firmly. I'm doing it for Lily. And for Sophia. I know. Alexandra's expression softened. That's why I trust you. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the immaculate lawn, Jake called to Lily. She came running, Sophia close behind, both girls breathless and laughing. Can Sophia come see my school sometime? Lily asked, her arms slung casually around her half-sister's shoulders. Jake glanced at Alexandra, who gave a small nod. I think that can be arranged, he told Lily. Later that night, after both girls had fallen asleep, Lily in the guest room that was slowly becoming hers, Sophia in her own bedroom down the hall, Jake found himself standing in Alexandra's home office, looking at a photograph he hadn't seen before. It showed Thomas, his brother, standing beside Alexandra on a beach somewhere, both of them young and smiling. Thomas had his arm around her, his left wrist visible with the same crescent birthmark Jake had always shared. He never told me he had a brother, Alexandra said quietly, entering the room behind him. I found out only after he died, going through his things. There was an old photo of you two as children. He'd written your name on the back, but I had no way to find you. Jake studied his brother's face in the photograph. The resemblance was there, though Thomas looked more polished, more confident, a man who had remade himself into someone new. We weren't close, Jake admitted. After our parents died, I thought someday he might come back. I never imagined. He gestured to the sprawling house, the wealth, the secret family his brother had left behind. Alexandra moved to stand beside him. Life rarely follows the path we expect. No, Jake agreed, thinking of Marie, of the secret she'd kept, of the strange twist of fate that had brought him to this moment. It doesn't. 6 months later, the arrangement had evolved into something none of them could have predicted. Jake split his time between his apartment and Alexandra's estate. The foundation work challenged him in ways his cafe job never had, allowing him to help families facing medical crises similar to what he'd experienced with Marie. Lily thrived with the stability of her familiar school and friends, combined with weekends of adventure with Sophia. The girls had become inseparable, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. What surprised Jake most was his evolving relationship with Alexandra. Behind her public persona of cool efficiency was a woman of remarkable depth and vulnerability, a single mother who had shouldered enormous responsibilities while protecting her daughter from the harsh spotlight of public attention. They found themselves talking late into the night after the girls were asleep, sharing stories of Thomas, of their separate journeys as single parents, of their hopes for their daughters' futures. I never thought I'd share Sophia with anyone, Alexandra confessed one evening as they sat on the terrace, watching the stars. I've been so focused on protecting her, I never considered what she might be missing. A family, Jake said simply. Alexandra nodded. You've given her that. You and Lily both. The moment stretched between them, comfortable yet charged with unspoken possibility. 1 year to the day after Sophia had gotten lost in the mall, they gathered for a celebration, not just the four of them, but Jake's sister and her family too. As Jake watched Alexandra laughing with his sister, Sophia and Lily teaching their cousins a complicated hand-clapping game, he felt a sense of completion he hadn't experienced since Marie's death. That evening, after the guests had left and the girls were asleep, Alexandra found Jake in the garden. I have something for you, she said, handing him a small box. Inside was a key. Jake looked at her questioningly. It's to the front door, she explained. Not the guest house. This house. She took a deep breath. I'm not proposing anything specific, Jake. I'm just acknowledging that whatever this is between us, it's becoming something important. To me. To Sophia. And I hope to you and Lily too. Jake closed his hand around the key, understanding the weight of what she was offering, not just access to her home, but to her life, her heart, her future. Thomas would probably find this hilarious, Jake said with a small smile. His brother and his ex. Alexandra laughed softly. I think he'd approve. You're the better man, Jake. You always were. I'm just a guy who found a lost little girl in a mall, Jake said, downplaying his role in the remarkable chain of events. No, Alexandra corrected him gently. You're the man who completed our family when you didn't even know it was yours to complete. As they stood together under the stars, Jake realized that sometimes the most extraordinary journeys begin with the simplest acts of kindness. A lost child. A helping hand. A truth revealed. And sometimes, just sometimes, those journeys lead exactly where you're meant to be. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories that remind us how unexpectedly life can change in a single moment. Remember, family isn't always defined by blood, sometimes it's created through the choices we make and the love we choose to give.